DJ, in our last podcast, we set the over/under on number of beers you were going to drink at like 40 and a half. Did you go under or did you just pound that over?
I think I was probably at like 35 and you were at about 64.
I have never felt so old. There's a combination of things. One thing, this is going to sound like it's repetitive to you, scrolling through Facebook and seeing just a plethora of back to school photos is the thing that's made me feel the oldest. But also, after drinking Friday, after drinking Saturday, after drinking Sunday, and I guess I didn't drink on Monday. Took a day off on Monday. It's Tuesday when we're recording this. I have never been this sore in my life. I feel like I went 10 rounds with like Muhammad Ali.
You basically did with
me. Let's get loaded because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first because we finish last.
I feel really bad there because loyal listeners, you guys know that we start every single podcast with the opening of a beer, and it's always an actual beer. DJ and myself are so hungover right now, and this is 2 days after we stopped drinking. I texted him and said, "Hey man, you pulled the short straw. You have to drink tonight." And what'd you say back to me?
Not gonna
happen. Yeah. So what I did is I just went on YouTube and I searched beer opening sound effect, and I clicked it, and I don't think anything came out.
I didn't hear anything. You know what? I know I'm getting old because I took a normal shit this morning, and then about 2:30. I knew I was still fucked up from the alcohol because I had been at work for like 30 minutes and my body just dropped the most surprise shit on me that I ever had to deal with. And I sprinted and just blew up the toilet like I've never done before.
Labor Day weekend / like our fantasy draft weekend always crushes us. And this year it just took a whole different toll. Like we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but man, I am hurting. I'm wearing glasses as we podcast right now.
Yep.
Terrible.
Wasn't good.
Well, we are back, DJ. NFL football. It literally starts in like a day and a half, 2 days. I mean, knock on wood if you're with me. I mean, come on. It's the finale of Hard Knocks tonight. We got a lot of things going on, but it is NFL Week 1, and this is our first preview podcast of the week, which means it's our fantasy football focused one. We go through basically some daily fantasy stuff. Through that, we pick up on players that basically kind of qualify for start-sit kind of guys. We've got stacks of the week. We've got bargain players. We've got fantasy football start-sit listener questions. Basically, this is our preview podcast where we hit on everything that's fantasy football related, and then we're going to drop another podcast on Fridays of the NFL season where we go game by game through the entire week, pick our picks straight up against the spread. Basically a gambling themed podcast, but this one's fantasy related. So DJ, are you ready for NFL? Are you ready for fantasy football?
Fucking football is back, baby. I spent 3 hours writing an article today that I didn't finish. That's how back it is.
And it's so back too because your favorite team gets to lead off the entire freaking thing on Thursday Night Football.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, you better be. Well, let's talk a little bit of I noticed that you went through daily fantasy guys. You've got a quarterback that you've got your eye on. Tell us a little bit about the quarterback that you're rolling out this week in daily fantasy.
Well, as always, I give you guys bargain guys that you can plug into your lineup around those expensive guys. So I find me some bargain guys that are going to light up your team, help your team win millions of dollars. You're welcome. This quarterback, I promise you I'll probably never say his name again this year. I'm going with Kirk Cousins, who is $7,400, and I put versus Minnesota. That's just wrong. Versus Atlanta.
You were too excited.
Atlanta's coming to town. Yeah, I was too excited. I didn't even know I was doing it. Falcons' pass defense was stinky last year, and honestly, I still think they're stinky. I've talked about them in the past with you. You think they're going to be really good. I think their defense isn't very good. And Matt Ryan's the most unconscious person in the entire world, so I don't have much faith in them, especially with defense. And another thing is, Kirk Cousins is not playing in prime time, which is when he usually is at his worst. So right. the light's not going to be on him, and he's at home, so that will help as well. So he's got the home field. He's not playing in prime time. He usually plays okay in those spots. With all the weapons he has, there's no reason he shouldn't put up a very solid performance against this Atlanta secondary, where I think he's going to have to be the one that, if they're going to win, he's going to have to be the one that helps them win. Obviously, the defense is going to have to do things, but I don't think it's going to be on Delvin Cook's shoulders.
I like this pick. I was actually surprised to see that Kirk Cousins is like, I think he was the 12th most expensive quarterback this week on like the main FanDuel slate. Kind of surprised to see that. I'm thinking that he should get between 20 to 25 points. And what did you say he was? $7,400. I
Yep.
actually really like a Kirk Cousins play here, and I wouldn't mind stacking him with one of either Diggs or Thielen. And literally, if you base it off of like how it started last year, you got to go with Thielen. But if you kind of want to go towards where the end of the season was, you go with Diggs. If you were going to do a stack with Kirk Cousins, which one of those receivers would you go with him?
Well, I'm more on the Diggs train this year, so I would go with Diggs. I think he's going to be the touchdown guy. I think Thielen's, like I said, I went and backed it up last week after looking up his stats. And the end of the year that he had makes me kind of nervous. And I think Diggs is just the more skilled wide receiver of the two.
Yeah. It's funny because as the people that have heard us do these fantasy football preview podcasts before, you know that I do a stack of the week. And it's funny because I did an honorable mention stack of the week this week as well. And my honorable mention one was Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley. So I was kind of on the other side of that. But I just really like offense in this game. And why I'm going to go, that's my honorable mention one. So I won't spend as much time on it. But I like Matt Ryan. Obviously, I mean, I've been telling you all offseason that I'm on Matt Ryan. Here's why I like Calvin Ridley over Julio Jones, though, because the Vikings defense is good. I expect Xavier Rhodes to basically just be on Julio the whole time. And not that he's going to shut him down, but Julio Jones is the number one most expensive wide receiver this week. Calvin Ridley was only $6,500. I think I'm going to get great value there at $8,000 for Matt Ryan and $6,500 for Calvin Ridley. I like all the players in this game, kind of except for Julio. I think you're not going to get what kind of value he is at that money. But man, you can give me Diggs, you can give me Thielen. I would take either quarterback. I'm fine with that. And that's my honorable mention stack of the week.
I hate it.
Why?
I just don't. Usually defenses are a little bit ahead of the offenses this early in the year, and obviously we have to give offensive players. But Minnesota's defense is good, and I think they're just going to be light years ahead of what the Atlanta offense is coming to this first game on the road in Minnesota, where it's extremely loud. They pipe in some noise or whatever, but it's like, I don't know. I don't like. Their defense is just too good in Week 1 for me to use anybody on Atlanta.
All right, well then let's not use my honorable mention stack of the week. Let's use my real one, because my real one is the Rams duo of Jared Goff, who is $7,800, and your guy, you gotta like this one, Robert Woods at $7,000. They're going against the Panthers. I haven't seen the over/under on that game yet. I have a feeling that it's going to be fairly high, and the only reason that I even felt a little bit nervous about this was what happened the last time we watched the Rams play a game. They struggled to score 3 points in the Super Bowl. I'm throwing that out of the window. I think that was an outlier game. That was a hell of a situation. It was a Super Bowl. I don't think Carolina's defense is going to be the thing that carries that team this year. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and you're going to give me Jared Goff in an offense that I think is going to try to pass the ball even a little bit more this year, because I think they're going to try to really lighten Todd Gurley's workload, especially early in the season, try to keep him healthy for that playoff push, for the actual playoffs. I think he's going to be tossing the ball around all over the place. And man, you could use any three of those receivers, but rather than using Cooper Kupp right away, like in his first game back after a big injury, I'm between Cooks and Woods, and I just have faith in Woods. Like, I think Cooks can be your blow-up guy, but I think Woods has that potential for 1 to 2 touchdowns, 110 some yards. I just think he has such a more consistent, safer floor than a guy like Cooks. So stack of the week, my actual one, Goff, Woods.
See, and I know this is going to sound weird because it's like they won the Super Bowl last year they lost the Super Bowl last year, but they were one of the best offenses in all of football. But I am just, for some reason, I am hesitant to jump on this Rams offense and Jared Goff right away because I almost want to just see how it works after that loss coming into Week 1. Like, I'm just a little bit worried.
That was my one hesitation.
I want to see them show me again that they're still the same thing. I'm legitimately worried about that. I'm not putting any Ram on my teams, and they may dominate and they may not. I just need to see proof.
Yeah, you just gotta. You want to see it to believe it. You know.
Yeah.
The most expensive quarterback this week on the FanDuel slate is Patrick Mahomes $8,700. He is $500 more than the second most, who is Russell Wilson. The thing is, Mahomes plays at Jacksonville. Is there even like, yeah, Mahomes is definitely the best fantasy quarterback this season, like if you're drafting. If you have all of those options and he's going against arguably the best defense, is there any way that you're going to plug Pat Mahomes into a lineup this week?
No chance. Not at all. No, I mean, with Jalen Ramsey on Tyreek Hill, and I think that defense is improving. Me and you expect them to research. Too nervous again. And I expect obvious regression, but I think, like I said, defenses are ahead of offenses, and I know their offense is really good, but the Jaguars' defense, I think, is just still really good as well. So that's too expensive for me for some of the quarterbacks out there in the matchups they have in Week 1. Like, if it was somebody else, yes, but it's the Jaguars, and they are obviously a solid defensive team.
The one theory that I was able to come up with as to why I would maybe use Mahomes is I think everyone's going to agree with us that it's such a terrible matchup that you would want to avoid it. So doing that, you might be the only person in a tournament that even has him. You might get a huge advantage there if he blows up. But man, if he doesn't, if he just has that average day and you're using $8,700 on a guy like that, and you can get a guy like Goff or Cousins or Cam for literally $1,000 less, I feel like you have to go that route this week. So I'm with you on that one. One other guy I wanted to bring up as well, because I think if you're looking for a bit of a bargain play at quarterback, it's not a super huge bargain. Cousins is even cheaper than this guy, but Dak Prescott at home against the Giants. Who knows what the hell? The reports all day were Zeke Elliott is close to signing. He's probably going to be back. Even if he does get back, even if he does play, I'm not quite sure what his workload is going to look like. Is this like the all-time good like example of like how you can like just hit on Dak Prescott this week?
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott would be a good play. I considered him in this one, and also in my article that I'll be releasing. Will be releasing on Thursday. Zeke needs to come back in general, but the Giants are stinky.
Yeah, I'm all over that. Yeah, if I'm not going to use one of my stack of the week quarterbacks, like my bargain play this week would be Dak. I mean, you have to take advantage of that situation. I think they're going to stomp on the Giants right now.
Zeke better show up because I just drafted him first in my, not first overall, but first in my touchdown week, hearing all these rumors. And the fact that he hasn't signed by now makes me a little nervous. Yeah, we didn't talk about the fact that Jared Goff, I don't know how we glossed over that. Jared Goff he's about to sign a deal giving him a 4-year extension here.
Yeah, I saw he was close to signing a 4-year extension. So that's interesting. It almost, I think
it's crazy.
Well, for a while there, they kept saying like the Rams might be that team that like lets Goff play it out and then throw him a contract, and if he doesn't like it, say, hey, we might be able to plug someone in here that can do the same thing because of this scheme. But if they do it right now, if they can get him, if he's happy with the team, if they're happy with him, and it's not like a super huge cap thing where it's like a team-friendly deal, I don't think it's a terrible idea if they're already having this much success with him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the prove it to me with Jared Goff after that.
All right, so you said you are going to be giving us some bargain plays this week. Let's move on to running backs and hear who your biggest bargain running back is.
I think you're 100% going to agree with this. Agree with me on this one. I've got Mark Ingram. I can't believe he's this cheap. He's $6,600 going down to Miami. Is it going to be storming there?
No, I think they're going to be okay now.
Oh, yeah, because that one just sat on the islands there?
Yes, it blasted the Bahamas.
Just destroyed the Bahamas. I can't believe he's this cheap. Miami, honestly, was one of the worst run defenses I've seen last year, and Aaron Jones kind of just blitzed them for 1,000,000 yards, and lots of teams just had really huge weeks against them. And he's $6,600. I don't know if it's like they feel unknown about Mark Ingram, but they paid him to come there. They're going to give him the ball. My prediction for him, and I'm giving some of my article away, but people will look at it anyways, is 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he just goes off. I mean, they got rid of Kiko Alonso. They pretty much given up. They just don't have the talent there anymore. They're done. They don't care.
I think your prediction might be 125 yards and 2 touchdowns too short.
Maybe.
He has the potential to go up. I was curious this week. I was looking, and I specifically was looking like how expensive is Lamar Jackson? How expensive is a guy like Mark Andrews? How expensive is Mark Ingram? And you have to scroll a long ways to find Mark Ingram. He's literally like $2,000 cheaper than some of the top running backs that
Yeah.
have pretty tough matchups.
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't believe it.
I was so surprised to see that. I honestly don't know if you can get better value at any position in daily fantasy this week than you can get
I
with
mean,
Mark Ingram.
I'm gonna play a FanDuel league now. After I saw that, I was like, oh shit, I'm definitely doing daily fantasy this week because I need Mark Ingram in every lineup that I plug in.
It's funny too because you brought up the idea of Kiko Alonso, and being a Dolphins fan, Kiko Alonso has holes in his games, but he seems to always be around the ball and he does make plays. Like he's a pretty sound tackler when he reads the hole and he reads the play right. However, they got rid of him because he didn't fit the scheme. Whatever, they want to get younger. Outside of Jerome Baker, man, they don't have much at linebacker. They cut another defensive lineman today, the guy that led their team in sacks in the offseason. It is full on tank mode. The only disadvantage I can see to playing Mark Ingram is everyone's going to play Mark Ingram. But I think if you don't play him, you're going to miss out on a 20-plus fantasy point game. And I don't know where you're going to make it up at that price.
It's 6,600. I have to.
It's pretty amazing. Let's talk about another bargain guy because this guy's actually a little bit cheaper. I don't think he has the ceiling in this matchup per se that Ingram has. But I like the idea if you're going to go bargain running back, if you don't want to use Ingram, say you want to be a little different, Austin Eckler is only 6,400. And yeah, Zeke might come back, but guess what? Melvin Gordon's probably not even close to coming back at this point and being an actual factor. Justin Jackson's going to get some carries. I get that. But it's a home game. It's against the Colts. And while I think the Colts defense is a little bit better, it's improved last year. It should be fine this year. How are the Colts going to come out? Are they going to be just flat because they lost their leader, they lost their franchise guy in Luck? Or are they going to come out and just be like, we need to like prove everyone that we were more than Luck? Are they just going to come out and play like a bat out of hell? I don't know. We won't be able to predict that. But man, I just think the Chargers have too much going for them on offense. And while Gordon's out, while he's not in the picture, you're getting the starting running back on one of the league's best offenses for $6,400. I love Austin Eckler if you're not going to use Mark Ingram.
Yeah, Austin Eckler's tough because, you don't know how much anybody's going to be used, but also it's a half-point PPR, so he could. That's kind of what he's used for is their passing game. So he could get a lot of reception out of the backfield as well as getting in around probably around 10 carries or something like that. So it's 10, 15 carries, nothing too crazy, but that one would be one of those guys that I don't think a lot of guys will be using, but could pan out.
Right. I want to talk about one guy who's more of a mid-ranged price guy, and it's Leonard Fournette. He's $7,200 at home against the Chiefs. What I'll say first is I love this value. I have a daily fantasy lineup with him in it. I feel comfortable with it. My one hesitation as soon as I submitted it, though, was, dude, what if the Chiefs offense does just come out guns a-blazing? They get up 2 touchdowns. They get up 17 points. Where does Leonard Fournette factor in? If at the end of the first half he's had 5 carries and they're down 14 to 17 points, is he literally just a waste at that point because of how little he factors into the pass game?
I guess I'll just have to go check out my article, Start 'em, Sit 'em, coming on Thursday, and see what I think about Leonard Fournette.
Well, that's the ultimate tease. With that, let me talk really quick about Pristine Auction because they have tons of stuff for your man cave as this NFL season begins. Stay tuned. Very shortly here, we're going to be doing another giveaway, so make sure you pay attention and try to get signed up for that. But in the meantime, head over to pristineauction.com today. Enter registration code LOADED. Get a free $5 added to your account today. So head over to pristineauction.com. DJ, let's stay on your bargain train. Let's switch from running backs to wide receivers. Who do you got here?
I have to comment real quick. I'm looking over a park right now, and there's this kid right now playing hockey on his rollerblades, and this dad is coaching him up. Like, he is hardcore. right now, just yelling, and the kid is getting so pissed when he messes up. That's going to be me with my son in the future. I can't wait.
If your son storms away, do you let him go, or do you say no? You get back here. You're not leaving
No,
until
I
you
get your
perfect
ass
this.
back here.
Daddy
Man, this
advice.
kid slammed his.
You
This
just
kid
fell into
slammed his.
daddy advice with DJ. I'm finally proud of you.
Yeah, this kid just slammed his stick into the ground, and I'm like, yes, I love it. Like, I think it's funny, but I'm gonna be the same way in a couple of years if this little shithead except he's gonna have football gear on or basketball in his hand.
So the reason DJ knows this stuff is because he is currently podcasting outside, and I just asked him before we start here. I'm like, dude, it's early September. You can get away with that now in Wisconsin. November is gonna roll around. December is gonna roll around. January. What are you gonna do? I don't know how this is gonna work for you. You're gonna have to dress like an Eskimo.
See, I'm a Packer fan and not a Dolphin fan, so I can withstand the cold. We're fine up here in the cold weather. I'll throw on some shoulder pads, long sleeve shirt. I'll be good to go.
Tell me about your wide receiver.
I am taking. I didn't put this guy in my article, but I didn't want to give too many of mine away, so I wanted to take one that wasn't in my article as to not spoil too much. So I've got Tyler Lockett, 6,800 versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati's coming all the way across the country to play in Seattle, and Cincinnati, they're just bad all around, right? They were one of the worst passing defenses in the league last year. They're just not good offensively, defensively. Honestly, the more I think about it, I can see the Bengals not winning a game this year. Like, I could actually see that happening. They do have a couple of good players. Joe Mixon, AJ Green will come back, so maybe those guys will will them to a win or two. But that offensive line is so bad. But he's the number one guy for Russell, and people aren't I don't know why he's not getting more hyped up, because I think he's gonna just thrive in that offense without Doug Baldwin. There's talk about how many more slants he's gonna run this year, how successful he was doing that last year. I don't even care about that. I just think since he sucks, $6,800 for Russell Wilson's number one receiver, he's gonna get the rock. He's going to. The next guy is DK Metcalf. He's only a rookie.
Right, and he's kind of questionable coming into it. Here's the thing with Lockett. Let's take a backseat to DFS for a second. Think about your actual fantasy lineup. If you got Lockett as your third, or if somehow you got him as your team's fourth wide receiver, aren't you trying to find a way to plug him in the lineup this week? I have a league right now where he's currently on my bench, and I'm going to be on it until game time, just trying to figure out which of my other wide receivers to bench, just because I think you have to try to find a way to get him in.
Yeah, there's flex positions. You'll find something.
You said everything about Lockett that I wanted to. He's my guy as well. I have him in one of my daily fantasy sports lineups for this week. I don't know what to think the Bengals outlook is right now. I think they're not going to be a very good team. The last word is that AJ Green's still in a walking boot. I'm a big Joe Mixon fan. I got nervous every single time I was on the clock in my fantasy drafts and Joe Mixon was on the board, and I ended up having to take other people over him just because I'm like, dude, I don't trust this team. I don't trust this team at all right now. In my opinion, they should be doing exactly what the Dolphins are doing, but not quite to the extent as to what the Dolphins are doing. But man, it's a race to see who can suck the worst right now. I feel like kind of between those two teams.
Yeah, I think that's funny because you do, and I do it too. You get into a fantasy thing, and there's somebody you say you like, and then they come up on the board, and you're like, I'm going to find somebody else to pick. It's so weird how that works.
Oh, it's terrible. So I've got a little bit of a beef with FanDuel, because I was looking at the wide receivers, and I was way up toward the top, and I saw Julio, I get that. I see Odell Beckham, I get that. I see Mike Evans, I get that. The fourth most expensive wide receiver is T.Y. Hilton. Did they forget that Andrew Luck retired? What happened there? There's no chance you can use T.Y. Hilton, right?
Who are they facing?
They're playing at the Chargers.
Yeah, no, there's no chance. And that's Casey Hayward's on that team, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. They had one of the best overall defenses last year.
They were sixth against the pass last year.
Yeah, I was looking through defensive numbers. They have Melvin Ingram and Bosa. It's I don't understand how that could even be possible.
Let's look at another fairly expensive guy here then, because you said you probably wouldn't use the likes of Patrick Mahomes. But considering one of his wide receivers, and he's not one of he's a top 7 expensive guy this week. Tyreek Hill, $7,600. Likely going to be facing Jalen Ramsey pretty much the entire game. But when you're a guy like Tyreek Hill, when you use speed as like your driving strength, sometimes it doesn't really matter who you're playing against. You might be able to get behind everybody and make it happen. Any chance Tyreek Hill can live up to his $7,600 price tag and get close to what he averaged last year? He averaged 18 fantasy points a game.
Well, you know how I am with Tyreek Hill. He is one of those guys who will score like I've got bugs everywhere. Who will score like 30 points and then 6 points. This is one of his 6 points game. Like Jalen Ramsey doesn't matter how fast he is because he'll play him right. This is one of those 6 point games. Like there's no doubt in my mind he's going to struggle here. I don't want anything to do with him at all. I think they put him at that price range and a lot of people are going to use him. There's another reason I'm not going to touch him, but it's going to be one of those games where he scores like nothing. It's going to be like Travis Kelce and Davey Williams, and I don't know how much LaShawn McCoy is going to factor in, but those type of guys, Sammy Watkins.
Right.
I almost rather use Sammy Watkins because he's still healthy game one. So.
Yeah. If you're going to use Sammy Watkins this year, use him this week. He's healthy.
Yeah.
And he's only $6,300.
Yeah.
What do you think about, I'm going like a deep bargain here. And going against the Rams is the Panthers' DJ Moore. He kind of had spurts last year, a little bit here and there, but only $6,200. And the word is that like a Cam is hopefully finally healthy. They're going to be airing it out. They don't have Funchess anymore. Greg Olsen is a fossil. DJ Moore is going to be the guy. It's supposed to be him and Curtis Samuel. Are we going to see it right away week one with a guy like DJ Moore? Or is DJ Moore a guy that you kind of said like, hey, I need to watch it. I need to prove it first. Does DJ Moore fit in that start week one category or the you need to prove it to me first category?
I've got higher and higher on DJ Moore, and I'm kind of a fan of his. I don't even know if it's as much prove it for DJ Moore as it is for Cam Newton.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's let's see what Cam Newton's got. But that being said, I drafted both those guys, I think, in a couple of different leagues. So I drafted Cam Newton at least one, and I think I drafted DJ Moore on two separate occasions. So I am positive on him. But it'll be interesting to see that. I think just see both of them in general. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. That's a tough one. They've got the Rams coming to town. Defense isn't necessarily the greatest either, so they could put up some numbers, like you said. That could be a fairly high-scoring game. I could see it being like that too, because the Panthers' secondary hasn't been very good for a while, and I don't think the Rams is either. So we'll see. Could be I don't know. That'll be an interesting one. I'm kind of curious. I'm excited to watch that game because I predicted the Panthers to go like 11-5.
Right. I think if you're playing in a tournament, not necessarily maybe a head-to-head, but if you're in a tournament and you're looking for a bargain guy at wide receiver, that might not be a bad guy to take a chance on. If it ends up going the way I'm kind of playing it out in my head and it is that high scoring of a game, like Christian McCaffrey's going to get his. We know that. But who is that receiver that's going to step up? I really think DJ Moore is going to be the first one that kind of gets the opportunity to as well. I don't mind Curtis Samuel. I don't have his price up in front of me right now. But, man, I think week one, starting right away, they're going to go to like their top guy. They're going to see what they have there. I think he's probably the guy I would use in that game. I don't know if you have any other wide receivers you want to talk about. If you do, we can. Otherwise, let's hear about your bargain tight end.
No wide receivers. I did one of each, and I did do a tight end, although I do hate tight ends pre-draft. I still have to stream them because I take pride in my ability to stream defenses and tight ends. So I'm gonna give you a tight end here. It's hard going into week one because you haven't seen a lot, and tight ends just don't get me excited. But I'm gonna start off with Mark Andrews against the Dolphins, because I think anytime you're going against the Dolphins, it's a good play.
Say no more, right?
And I honestly think that Mark Andrews is going to be the only guy who has a successful year in that offense on the receiving side, as long as Lamar Jackson's out there, because I think tight end will probably end up being his best friend, and then Mark Ingram will have some rushing yards. But I do not like any receivers. Like I think he'll be the lead the team in receptions.
The hardest thing for me to predict right now, because I love the pick. Like I am already a Mark Andrews fan. I think if Lamar Jackson's going to find success through the air, it probably will be to the tight end this season. So I agree with everything you said there. Here's the thing about the Dolphins. over the last few years, they have been terrible at covering the tight end. So that's why I like it. Here's the thing, though. Kiko's gone. Chase Allen's gone. Some of these guys that were the ones covering the tight ends are gone. I don't know what to expect anymore. It's going to be a bunch of new guys. We don't know the role. Like TJ McDonald got released. We don't know like what's going to shake out with the number 2 cornerback. Minka Fitzpatrick, is he playing safety? Is he playing corner? Is he playing nickel? Is he playing linebacker? I don't know who's going to cover Mark Andrews. So I wish that I could have at least seen a Dolphins game before this. But the tank is real. They're going to be worried about Lamar Jackson running. It's the Dolphins this year. I'm all on board with Mark Andrews. What did you say his price was? He wasn't even that expensive.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't write it in there, so I actually don't even remember myself.
I have that up. He's only $5,400.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was 5,000 something at tight ends. I probably lost my attention after I typed him in. So
right. I have a couple other tight ends I want to bring up because I always think about like trying to get a positional advantage against your opponent, and if you're gonna do that at tight end, it usually always comes down to Ertz, Kittle, Kelsey. It's literally those three. Kelsey at 78, Kittle at 73, Ertz at 71, and then you got to drop $600 before you get to the next one at OJ Howard. Are you at all tempted to use any of those top 3 tight ends if you have the money to do it, or are you going to try to play a bargain guy like a Hunter Henry, like a Mark Andrews, and just see maybe if they can keep up with the top 3 tight ends this week?
Yeah, anytime I do a tight end, I'm literally doing them last. So I'm using most of my money and finding a bargain tight end anytime I do it.
Yeah.
I can plug in. So I'm not wasting my money on a top tight end ever.
And once again, though, it's Kelsey versus the Jags.
Yeah,
like that's not a great matchup. The one that I think I maybe would like the most of those is Ertz playing the Redskins because I don't think the Redskins are going to be much of anything this year. In our last preview podcast where we went through all the teams, I had the Redskins going 1-15. I don't have high hopes for them. I could see Ertz having a really nice game here. But yeah, man, $7,100 when you can get a Hunter Henry for $1,000 cheaper, that opens up so much more cap for the other positions that you're using multiple of. Like in FanDuel, you're using 2 running backs. You're using 3 receivers. You have the flex play. You might need that cap elsewhere. So I think I'd be more likely to use a guy like Hunter Henry at $6,100.
So how mysterious do I look right now?
I was actually going to – whoa, that was really, really creepy and really loud. Apologize to anyone who might have heard that. DJ and this damn mute button. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, it got dark since we first started. And DJ, you're good thing you're smiling.
Go any further.
I'll end it right there.
Oh yeah, I just swatted my headphones to the moon when I was trying to swat a bug.
Yeah, that's what that noise was. If you were wondering, not one of us didn't die. DJ was actually just trying to swat a bug.
Oh, that's good.
One thing I do want to bring up before we have some fantasy football listener questions, but back to our Labor Day fantasy football weekend draft party, where in case you haven't listened to us in the past, thanks for listening today. But it's our yearly tradition just to go all out for this fantasy draft, drink tons of beer, eat tons of terrible food. Just basically it turns into a party. We had a dude at one point dressed up like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, like that. He was our beer bitch. We went over on our beers drank. Me and DJ, for probably the 15th time in our history together, we fought. We shoved each other. He ripped my t-shirt, and within 3 seconds, we were hugging and just blew people's minds. How do you describe that to a new person?
I don't know. It's just something that it's like, I think I was more angry the first time, and you're just like, dude, what was that? And then you hugged it, and then you were more angry that time, and it's just like, whatever, and then we get over after 3 seconds, because it is what it is. Sometimes when you're with each other for as long as we've been married, sometimes you gotta fight.
Our wives definitely think something's weird between us, but it's just so funny because like we went through that. DJ literally like my shirt got ripped. It ripped off my body, and people are like, "Oh my god, what's gonna happen?" And then I like whispered to DJ like, "Hey, let's hug it out." We just embrace each other, and everyone's like, "I don't know how to describe what this is. Like this is amazing."
Freak people out for like 10 seconds, and then it was just over.
That, and in case anyone who was in my car that night when we drove to the bar, I will be invoicing you because I don't know if we were rolling around in a sandbox or what happened, but it looks like Hurricane Dorian went through my Chevy Malibu.
That was the worst 5-minute drive I've ever experienced in my entire life because I was still semi sober and I was the one driving and there's 7 people laying. I got a beer dumped on me in my shirt. Everybody's shoes are in the air. That's where the sand is probably coming from because it was dirty up. I was getting shoved into the side, and I'm the driver. I was driving, and I'm getting pushed around.
There were legs, arms, just limbs, just everywhere. That's all I remember from that.
Yeah, it was the worst.
Oh, just terrible. Well, yeah, I got to clean up my car yet. Oh, gosh, it's fucking terrible.
That's just disgusting.
Well, let's knock out a couple of fantasy football listener questions. So in this first one, I think I already know your answer, but I'm going to send it out there anyways. You've got a half PPR league. You're looking at a tight end here. You got Mark Andrews versus the Dolphins or Delaney Walker versus the Browns.
Well, as I told you already, and you said what I'm going to say, I'm a Mark Andrews guy this week. Like I said, I think Lamar Jackson, that's going to be who he focuses on this year. So I think Mark Andrews.
I'm with you on that one, and I'll ask a follow-up question. What is your outlook right now on Delaney Walker? I felt like he wasn't like he was going high in the tight end, just compared to where I thought he should have been going. I even feel like he was going a little bit higher than just what I thought. Coming off of a bad injury, he was already kind of old. They drafted Jonnu Smith a couple of years ago to kind of be the next guy, and it just hasn't taken off. I can't believe Delaney Walker's still on the team.
Well, he's kind of we're probably underrating him because he's kind of like Jason Witten or Greg Olsen, where they're super slow, and Antonio Gates, but they know how to get into the right spots because they've been in it for so long. And
crafty.
Really what the tight ends need to do is find holes and get in there, especially when they're running a zone defense.
Right.
I think that's what tight ends like that, those experienced ones, just thrive. So he might not be terrible this year. I think people are just downgrading him more because of his age and Marcus Mariota and the offense and all that stuff.
But this week, Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
All right, this is a sweep. Next one, we got a standard league. You have Curtis Samuels versus the Rams or Chris Godwin versus the 49ers.
I'm going to go Chris Godwin, and I also write about him in the article, so I don't want to say too much.
All right, well, I'll just give my 2 cents then. I think matchup-wise, Samuel is your play. However, if I'm wrong and all these other people that are right, who are the Tampa Bay believers, the Bruce Arian believers, the Jameis Winston believers, Godwin is apparently going to be the guy, and I'm guessing that you probably drafted Godwin a little bit higher. And I don't know about you. You can hit on this if you'd like. Setting your lineup for week 1, in my opinion, is one of the trickiest things to do because you haven't quite seen it all yet. You haven't seen it how the new offense is going to play in, new guys, new situations. You just haven't quite seen it yet. So you kind of got to take a shot in the dark. And what I almost fall back to on these week 1 matchups is believe in your draft strategy. Did you draft Curtis Samuel first or did you take Chris Godwin first? Well, you clearly had Chris Godwin ranked a little bit higher. Go ahead and just trust that and go with it. Give it a week or 2, see how it plays out, and then reevaluate the situation.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. It's the first 3 weeks are that's where you're trying to figure out and get a picture. You start to figure it out a little bit better after about 3 weeks, so you can start seeing whose defenses are good, whose defense is bad, who's breaking out a little bit. So that it starts to give you an idea and a picture. But yeah, especially the first week is impossible because there's so many unknown right now. It's crazy.
Oh, they're brutal. And I hate this because, in one of my situations, it gets, amped up a little bit because I got Tariq Cohen in, 2 leagues, and he's, one of my on-the-fence kind of guys. Well, I got to make a call in a matter of hours here. So I'm what the hell do you do? This is kind of – it'll be my own listener question to you. What the hell do you do with Tariq Cohen? If you have another capable guy, are you using him over Cohen? Or what's the deal with the Packers defense? How are they going to play defense against those pass-catching running backs?
See, I think they're really good in a lot of places. The one area they've been weak in is against receiving running backs. McCaffrey, I remember murdered them, but just in lots of cases, that's where they struggle. So he's the one probably on the offense that makes me the most nervous. I'm not worried about Trubisky. I'm worried about him about him just tossing it out to Tarek and nobody being around him.
Right. All right. Well, you sold me on him. I guess I will use him.
Yeah.
This next one here, we got half PPR league, and it's the flex spot. You've got Josh Jacobs versus the Broncos. That's a Monday night game. Or Julian Edelman versus the Steelers, which is the Sunday night game.
I mean, I'm all in on Josh Jacobs. There's no question in me. He's a number one running back on one of my fantasy football teams and a number two on the other, and I'm starting him in every possible scenario. Plus, Denver's defense hasn't been particularly good up the middle against the run, so I like that as well. So I'm a big Josh Jacobs guy. All in on him.
This one, I'm kind of torn on this one. Not gonna lie. I'll take the other side of it just to play devil's advocate right now. Julian Edelman in the Patriots versus the Steelers. The Steelers, I'm a little bit unsure of. I said it multiple times during the offseason. The Steelers are one of my hardest teams to predict this offseason just because of how different they're going to look, just offensively, defensively, everything. You talk about the offense maybe being behind in week one. Well, guess what? This is the offense of the Patriots with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady leading the way. I don't think that they're the team that's going to show quite as much rust. I think they could just pop off and do fine. So you're looking at Edelman. I don't think he's going to go off and have a huge 20, 25-point fantasy game, but I think he could be very safe. Whereas Jacobs, it's a rookie situation. You don't know. Maybe you want to give it a week or two and see how it goes. But like you said, in your situation, some people have Josh Jacobs as their number one running back. You don't have that luxury. You might just have to go with it. So it's a true toss-up. Honestly, I probably would go Josh Jacobs. I just wanted to try to play a little devil's advocate and give you a reason why Julian Edelman might not be the worst play here.
In year one of rookie running backs, you can figure out if they're good or not. In year 1, 2, wide receivers, you can't. Running backs are, I mean, if they're not good, you can see it. It's just, it is what it is. It's not like this trivial thing at running back. It's completely different. It's reading holes and stuff like that, which is just a part of the natural skill of a running back or wide receivers. It's learning different defenses, playing different cornerbacks, getting on the same page as your new quarterback. There's so much going into that wide receiver position that make it more difficult. So I think Josh Jacobs won't have any issues.
And he's going to be the guy. I mean, that's going to be the guy that gets the carries, the targets, everything. And it's Denver. I don't know what to experience from – if Denver has a strength, it is their defense. But just don't know how that's going to play out either.
Yep.
Do you have any other players or topics or anything you would want to provide to this podcast today, DJ?
No, I want to get the fuck out of these mosquitoes.
As DJ gets eaten by mosquitoes, and I want to get prepped to watch a little Hard Knocks. Knock on wood if you're with me.
Yep.
All right, check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out the website. DJ's been hyping his article all podcast long. It's loadedboxpodcast.com. Next episode, as I mentioned, will be dropping on Friday. It'll be our game-by-game picks against the spread picks, the gambling podcast. We're available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. DJ, I recommend Buggins for any bug itches you have. And with that, go ahead and send us out.
Bye.